Okay. A lot of these are starting with heavy sighs now, so I think I'm going to have to take a break and do more notes on to why I want to be making these entries at all. But of the rest of them, I think this one is going to be the most self-indulgent because it's going to be describing like personal, not affronts, but like personal damages, like why I'm involved in it at all. Because I think I pointed out before that it was my first brush with any ideological, in not infighting, but ideological opposition, specifically how people will fight over ideas. The first time I came across it was when uh, I guess they're called not news agencies, consultancy agencies were brought in to start critiquing video games because they were aiming for the wider audience. And this is also where I started to come across that false hope idea, where you're trying to sell people. Or at least you're trying to sell the corporations on the idea that they can help build a better world because they're with the cultural influence that their entertainment has. If they just build it in a particular way, the people that enjoy it, they'll get a view of the world that will just make them better people. That kind of a lie. Or where, because you're not representing your characters in a specific way, when whoever looks at the character, they can see themselves in it instead of seeing a highly stereotyped character that makes them feel that their identity is marginalized and something for mockery and ridicule. It sounds great, but then there's always the not the reverse. There's always the other side of it. It's if your culture cannot be mocked, but then everybody's culture can be mocked. It sets up your culture as special when it comes down to if you cannot see yourself in somebody in a character on the screen and that makes you think you cannot do that thing, you're missing out on that is a human. And if you can see a human doing a thing, it's monkey see monkey do, just imitate the person in the things that actually make it so that a person can do that thing. You see a firefighter, you start lifting. You start looking into situations where other people are running away from danger, your instinct needs to be to run towards it because that's the type of person that does that thing. Then you also need to understand that you might not want to force yourself into the kind of mentality that comes across other people naturally, and that your role should be more in a support capacity, like providing their PPE and their training regimen so that they can do the best job that they can, or that you need to start training so that you can be that person, that you do have that instinct, but it's something that's going to burn you out if you have a fucking noodle armed physique when you try to do it. You've got the heart for it, now you need to have the body for it. Like there's a large, not a large, but there are several ways that you can associate with something, even if you don't necessarily see yourself in it right there, because there is an element of transformation when it comes from taking somebody from a wet lump of clay and turning him into a hardened finished product. So that is one of the reasons I was against the idea of the greater good and the wider audience, is because if these things are supposed to be inspirational, it's not necessarily in the exact configuration of the thing that makes it an inspiration. It's sometimes how opposite of the ideal that thing is that makes it an inspiration. It's like a villainous character can inspire a hero because of how low they are. Like how corrupt a character is, like how perfect of a villain they are. Like what was this movie? I remember it was Mr. Glass, but I don't remember what the exact name of the movie. Not Unbreakable. I'm broken. Damn it, forget what the name of it was, but it was not Samuel L. Jackson. Was it Samuel L. Jackson? Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson was Mr. Glass, and Bruce Willis was the hero. And I love this a line that was in it. It's like, now that I know who you are, I finally know who I am. Like, because he found his hero, he finally understood that, okay, you will rise up to great heights, but I'm going to be the villain that constantly tests you. Or it's like it was a whole acceptance of all the pain and struggle that he's gone through over those years. He finally found, his thing to inspire him, and it was supposed to be twisted. But then again, yes, it's supposed to be twisted. He's the villain. Um, You don't necessarily need to have someone who is, you don't need necessarily need to have a great hero to inspire people. Sometimes you can have a very despicable villain. So I think that was lost in any kind of forcing of a positivity. It's a terrible thing to bring up because, well, I'm just going to say it. Bronies should get nothing but scorn in society. No, not scorn. Like anything niche should stay niche. So anime should never have gone mainstream. Like any kind of like hyper. I keep using the word and it means something to me, but I don't know if when I say the word niche, the definition that I'm aiming for comes across where you have a hyper focus. It's like the kind of thing that you would have cons for, where you would have an entire anime genre where you would have shotas or damn it, what's the other one? Where's like shotas and shonens? Not shota. Damn it, that's gonna be quite telling because it was the reason I bring that up is because there's supposed to be an entire catalog of keywords that you could go into where you're reading a comic book like an anime a dojin, like you're reading a Japanese comic book, and it has any combination of words to tell you what that story is going to be about. And that's where the word I was thinking of shonen, not shota, damn it, because that's very telling. But there's a large swath of categories that get into every, and I do mean every single interest that you can have to put into a story in Japan. You can just put in that word and find a host of comic books, dojins, whatever you want to call them, that are illustrated towards your interest. So in that world, you wouldn't necessarily have to dig down to a wider audience. You would just have to have your genre and then figure out how you're going to merchandise towards it. So I would think of that as the ideal for how you market inside an entertainment product. But then what I found when it came to escapism is they were dumbing down things that didn't really need to be dumbed down. A clear example, or a very recent example, is the remake of Final Fantasy VII. And I laugh because of some of that conditioning. It's like, as a gamer, you should want to mature and have a not a genre, but have an expression of that art where it doesn't rely on stereotypes. But Tifa's tits should have never been downsized. Aerith should have always been an exceptionally pretty person who's just beautifying and is more of a healer and less of a fighter. Well, I think they just keep that mechanic within her character design. But there should have never been, in my view, an error where you were looking at guys' inborn attraction towards just the feminine form and not looked at it as an opportunity where we're just gonna have game after game. It's like the what had jiggle physics? Well, everything had just jiggle physics, but there was a particular game, Dead or Alive. It was an intense fighting game, but for a while there, they were known for their jiggle physics. And I distinctly remember, I think it was in the 90s, because that was back when I was playing any kind of fighting game. I remember positioning one of the female characters because you know that the jiggle physics was there. I remember breaking the jiggle physics. I remember breaking all the physics of any game that I came across because it's like you push the boundaries of the thing to see how it's configured and how the environment is going to react to you just messing with the lines of it. So I remember at a time where like she had a bounce and a sway and her body would move in a such a way. I remember like, okay, I'm gonna make it look like it should not look. And her bounce and sway turned into her tits turning like flat ass pancakes. What I mean by that, the point that I'm trying to get towards by bringing any of that up is it wasn't a hyper focus, but of course people would recognize that it's there and it would be a draw because I think at a later point they had Dead or Alive beach volleyball, which is just entirely fan service. I think that's a better word that I should have brought up instead of talking about the entire breadth of the categories that you get into when it comes to Dojin. It's that um not softcore. Going back into the words I need to avoid that when it comes to fan service any judgment of the fan service that is used in advertising and pushing forward a commercial product isn't honest in my view because you should have because it's meant to be a commercial product like going back to us just I'll leave that out anything that's being sold should be sold for the maximum amount that it can be with the maximum amount of satisfaction towards the person that's buying it and when it comes to something for entertainment's sake, and it comes down to a straight male's interest, having a medium that is slathered in explosions and pretty women is just going to appeal to a guy. So I looking back at the time, I was uncomfortable with the shift, but I understood it as in okay, people are thinking that this is a good thing, so they're going to go with it. And then at a later date, I go looking back over it, and I can see at the time my discomfort was partially because it was forced. I could see that the people pushing forward the idea weren't really comfortable with the idea. They were just selling it. No, they were just selling it. They were just stating it because they want to be perceived as a good person. But then they want to be perceived as a good person amongst people that didn't even want them to be happy in their escapism and had no interest in the escapism to begin with. So, just largely disappointed. So, coming back around to collateral damage, what has been lost is people's ability to enjoy themselves and to indulge in their niche interests and not okay, you're always going to be judged for it. You should get over that. Judgment and shame over something that is not understood by the other person, you should not anticipate it. You should expect that. That if somebody comes across something that you're interested in and they look at it and they feel disgust, they're most likely going to mock you. You should just accept that. Well, what should not happen is any kind of forced sameness to make a entertainment entity more palatable. It just should just be sold as it is to the people that want to buy it. And at a later date, I have to go over. I think there are any limitations on that. But I do think that if there are things being produced that rely on a because anything artificial, anything animated, anything that's created within a artificial realm is entirely off the books in my opinion for you to be able to judge it with, like within real world circumstances. But if it relies on as a source material real world circumstances that are abhorrent, you should still go after that person with the full force of not even the law, full force of your not intention, full force of your will. If you want to scour the earth of those individuals, I am all for it. It's only when it comes into real world harm and in actual physical, you can name the person sense. Am I okay? Scorched earth is the only real solution for that kind of person. And that is the only instance where I support it. If it's artificial, fuck off. I don't care if it disgusts you. But if there's an actual victim, defend that person. And if there's an actual perpetrator, prosecute them. So I do feel like that's something that's been lost with the ideological war that I'm talking about, where you will have people talking about good and evil and their idea of what should be in the world, but then it's not realistic and sustainable, and it's also not honest when you actually ask them what they believe in or what they're actually fighting for. I think. Uh, so yeah, I should have wound down and stopped rambling a long time ago, but I did want to get these ideas down, and it's good that I have something to paper. Because even if I had to come back and do a version 2 of any of the videos from the ideological war thing at a later date, at least I have them down and I have something on paper. Because that is a problem that I've had where I don't put down ideas and they tend to rumble, roll around in my head until they're an issue. So it's better that I get them down.